Welcome to Conversations with Big Rich. This is an interview-style podcast. These interviewed are all involved in the off-road industry. Being involved, like all of my guests are, is a lifestyle, not just a job. I talk to past, present, and future legends, as well as business owners, employees, media, and land use warriors. Men and women who have found their way into this exciting and addictive lifestyle we call off-road. We discuss their personal history, struggles, successes, and reboots. We dive into what drives them to stay active in off-road. We all hope to shed some light on how to find a path into this world that we live and love and call off-road.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Have you seen 4Low magazine yet? 4Low magazine is a high-quality, well-written, four-wheel drive-focused magazine for the enthusiast market. If you still love the idea of a printed magazine, something to save and read at any time, 4Low is the magazine for you. 4Low cannot be found in stores, but you can have it delivered to your home or place of business. Visit 4lowmagazine.com to order your subscription today. On this week's episode of Conversations with Big Rich, we start with humble beginnings, a life-changing moment, hard work, setting goals, and seizing opportunities can get you far in life. Don't ever look at my next guest and think or say, it must be nice. It's been hard work and goals. My guest this week is Michael Brassanini. Hello, Michael Brassanini. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How about you?
Excellent, excellent. It's good to have you on the podcast here. Looking forward to this one. You know, we've known each other for a while, but we really don't know each other. So I think this will be a good chance to not only for me to get to know you, but along with a lot of our listeners too that enjoy rock crawling and off-road motorsports. So let's get started. Real simple question: where were you born and raised?
I was born in Boulder, Colorado. And when I was very young, my parents moved to West Yellowstone, Montana, where my grandparents had bought a lodge. And we lived there for a couple of years and then moved over into Island Park, Idaho, where they had bought another lodge, the Island Park Lodge. And that's where I spent most of my childhood.
Nice. So you were pretty rural, being West Yellowstone and Island Park.
Oh, yeah. Very rural, lots of snow, and lots of outdoor exploration to be had.
Right. Not a lot of probably organized like school sports or anything like that.
We definitely had organized school sports. I started wrestling when I was really, really young, and then played football and wrestled all the way through high school.
Okay.
I think we had a wrestling program in Ashton started in like first or second grade.
Wow. So, and what was it like living there? I mean, I've been up there. I've done some snowmobiling in that area. I lived in Blackfoot, Idaho for a while with Shelley, and they vacationed there a lot. But what was it like growing up in basically a vacation area?
Yeah, back then it was, like you said, very, very rural. Snowmobiling hadn't at the time taken off to the sport that it is nowadays. It was mainly just trail riding and that kind of thing. So there wasn't a ton of people, and as a kid, it didn't seem like there was a lot to do. But now, as I reflect back on my childhood, it was like, I think that we had everything to do, and the world was our oyster, so to speak, right? Like we could go out and do whatever we wanted. We'd go play in the woods in the summer and light stuff on fire like most kids do. And then,
there's a story there somewhere.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the fire department may or may not have shown up a couple of times. And then in the winter, yeah, pretty much everything we did was revolving around snowmobiles. So, back then it was a lot of trail riding and stuff. And as we got older, I would say my freshman year in high school, started exploring backcountry and modifying snowmobiles. And as horsepower started coming on, we really started getting to be able to access the backcountry and the mountains of Island Park, which is nowadays we kind of take it for granted with the evolution of the sport, where you can buy a snowmobile that'll get you anywhere you want to go, really, from the factory. And when we were younger, you couldn't do that. So
No, they were pretty basic. I remember the first time I rode a snowmobile was at Squaw Valley. They had a little rental thing, and you just made laps like in this little track area, and it was like parking lot track, but they were so basic. I mean, now they're just every single thing you can buy off the shelf is like full race ready.
Yep. Yeah, they're pretty incredible machines nowadays.
So growing up back then, school was school something you were interested in? Were you a good student?
I was. Yeah, I loved school. It was we didn't have a lot of kids that lived right by us, so it was a good place for me to see my friends, and get out of the cold, if you will.
Right.
But no, I absolutely loved school. I had really good grades and was a good student, I thought.
What was your favorite course of study?
I always liked math.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yep.
That likes math.
Yep, I liked math, and when you're in school, you're like, how am I ever going to use this in my day-to-day life? You question why you were taking all of these studies, but in my current job, my business, everything we do revolves around mathematics and building, so it actually was a very, very natural fit for me. So
perfect. And what did your parents do for work? They were running the lodges?
Yeah, so I actually had a pretty wild childhood. My mom, she helped run the lodge that my grandparents had owned, and my grandma passed away when I was 8 or 9. I don't recall exactly how old I was. She had ovarian cancer, and so my family ended up having to sell the lodge to help cover some of her medical bills. And I was a product of a high school relationship, so my birth father was never really involved in my life. I had a rough childhood at home, I should say, and that's probably why I loved school so much, because it allowed me to maybe escape that my home, if you will.
Okay.
So I was actually taken out of my home when I was in 4th grade by the state of Idaho and was put into the foster care system, where I was adopted by a dairy farmer who lived out in Mud Lake, Idaho. And spent my childhood from 10 to about 16 and a half working on the farm and milking cows.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I had no clue. So that experience then was positive in your life.
Yeah, it was at the time, as a kid, you're like, you kind of question, why me and that kind of thing. But now as I look back on it, I know that there was, somebody up above looking out for me. I certainly wouldn't be the person I am today or in the position I am today without that intervention, if you will.
Okay.
Who I considered to be my dad is my adopted father. He was a Brazilian immigrant. Came to the United States in the 50s on an LDS mission to St. Anthony, Idaho, where he, served the LDS church. And after he was released from his mission, he moved back to the area, worked on a dairy farm, and was able to save enough money to buy a farm. So and him and his wife couldn't have kids. So by the time I came along, he was in his 50s and wanted to adopt a son. And I was put up for adoption, and they adopted me. And then I ended up being baptized into the LDS Church, was taught the gospel, and graduated from seminary, and did all those things as a young man. Went through the Boy Scouting program. I got my Eagle Scout when I was 13, and really enjoyed that aspect of growing up. That part of my childhood was very enjoyable because I think the Scouting program brought me a lot of joy and love for the outdoors, which I already kind of had growing up my younger childhood at Island Park. But it was a really good fit for me.
Excellent. So, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that a soul was rescued, basically. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was hard, as a kid to be in your mind taken away from your family. But looking back on it now, it definitely saved me for sure. Yeah,
I have no experience in anything like that. My upbringing was completely different. I had friends that had they grew up in divorced families. In fact, both of my close friends were that way, and one was pretty easy for them. The other one wasn't so much because of the stepfather was, well, he was an asshole. We all agreed on that, even to this day. But both of them were able to find their way into successful careers. So it's good to know that happens out there and not everybody falls through the cracks.
Yeah. Yep, for sure.
And probably makes you a better parent.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I remember being a little kid, going through some of the abuse that I was experiencing, and thinking to myself that I would never treat my kids that way. And, and that was the mindset of a 7 or 8 year old kid, having those thoughts. And it was, maybe right. I spoil my kids a little bit, probably too much now, but for good reason, I guess.
Right. So. That's okay though. That's okay. Because I've met your kids and they're growing up right. They've got.
Yeah, they're really good kids. I'm very blessed. Well, I can't say enough good things about them, really.
Right.
Good grades, very respectful, and they listen. They do their chores. They help us around the house. They do everything we ask them to do, and I can't complain at all.
Right. So becoming a dairy farmer. And was that manually milking cows, or was it machine milking?
So we had a pneumatic milking system where you could milk six cows on either side, so 12 cows at a time. We had about 220 head of cows, so it'd get up about 3 o'clock in the morning. I would milk cows until I had to leave to go to school. We'd go to school, get out of school, and come home and milk cows. I mean, if you're not familiar with the dairy industry, you have to milk cows twice a day. You don't have a choice. There's no days off. There's no vacations. It's a very labor-intensive industry, and they don't make a lot of money. So we were fairly poor. We always had food on the table, and always had something to do. Between milking cows and raising hay, we had 400 acres of alfalfa. Some of it was irrigated with center pivots irrigation system, and some of it was hand line irrigation. So we spent a lot of time in the summer moving hand lines, irrigation pipe.
That looks like a fun job.
Oh yeah, twice a day moving hand lines. But my friends and I, we would do it, and we would race moving hand lines, and kept us in shape for football season. So
I would imagine.
yeah. Yeah. It was rewarding work. I look back on it now thinking that I wish that my kids could experience some of that so that they wouldn't take for granted the luxuries that we have.
Well, there's a way to do that.
Yeah.
You could ship them off to a work camp type of summer camp. Hey, you're going to learn what it was like.
That's right.
You may hate me while you're doing it, but you'll appreciate it when you get older.
Yep, that's for sure. Yep. No, it was. I had a really good childhood on that front. We had a lot to do. Had really good friends, and after I was adopted, I had really learned what a loving family was all about. So
excellent.
Yep.
And so you went to high school in the Mud Lake, Idaho area?
Yeah, West Jefferson, out of Territon.
Okay.
Yep.
And go ahead.
Played football and wrestled, and then started my friends and I, having a dairy farm, we would have bull calves. So I talked my dad into letting me raise a couple of bull calves, and then we would start riding those buggers around. So we started rodeoing in junior high, and ended up riding bulls in high school for high school rodeo. Had a few injuries.
That's not something I think. I mean, I enjoy watching bull riding, but I've never had the desire to try it. I've jumped off cliffs with my skis on. I've free climbed, 30, 40 feet up rock faces. I've done some stuff that people would consider dangerous, but getting on a bull and trying to stay on is just not something that I ever thought would be fun. But
yeah, it was. If you like adrenaline, that part of it was fun. I wasn't very good at it, I'll be honest. I got hurt a lot. But girls like cowboys, and I like girls. What can I say?
Okay, there you go. That works.
Yeah.
That works.
Yep.
That's why I liked skiing. There was a lot of snow bunnies.
There you go. But yeah, then we, my junior year, I moved back to Island Park because my maternal family was still there. My birth mom was still there, and I had still maintained a relationship with her. So my junior year in high school, I moved back to Island Park, got a job where they would give me housing. So at that point, I went out on my own. I was about 16 and a half, 17 years old, and had a job and went to school and ended up graduating early so that I could go into the workforce.
And what kind of job was that you had housing?
I worked at Pond's Lodge in Island Park. Okay. Started out washing dishes and bussing tables, and eventually ended up being a chef, line cook there. Did that for a few years, and then I was always a little bit jealous of the construction workers that got to work out in the sun, and they would come in for lunch and leave, and it's nice outside, and I'm stuck in this hot kitchen. So I reached out to one of the general contractors and asked him if he would give me a job, and he asked if I had any experience. I said no, but I know how to work, and he said, well, we'll give you a shot. So he gave me a list of tools to go buy, and I went and bought my first set of tool bags and showed up all raring to go, and he handed me a shovel, and I ran that shovel for about 4 weeks before I ever swung a hammer, and I felt like he was trying to break me to see if I would, show up and actually work, and I did. And after that, he never questioned it again. He put me to work and started teaching me how to frame and do siding, and that was kind of the beginning of my career. I really fell in love with building, and it was just, it came very easily to me. I can look at a set of blueprints and visualize what needs to happen very quickly and see the end result from a piece of paper. So it was a really good fit for me.
So do you use that same thing with people that you've hired? Where you try to break them first. I know we did that. I did that when I was a landscape contractor. Is I'd get all these high school students that wanted, typically football players that wanted to work outdoors, kind of stay in shape. They thought, oh yeah, I can do this, and most of them didn't last a week.
Yeah, nowadays it's such a fast-paced environment that really the people we hire, we're looking for, skilled individuals that want to join our team and just produce at a high level. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of time to really teach that kind of I guess, labor-intensive grunt work, if you will. I run a framing company, so there's not a lot of shoveling that needs to be done. Maybe hauling equipment and putting in blocking and nailing off hangers and stuff like that would be considered, bottom of the totem pole work.
Right.
But yeah, as far as the initiation period, we don't really approach things like that. It's a different day and age, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it is. So,
Yep.
So your job now consists of you're doing your framing projects. It's not a complete finish out.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, I own a framing company. We've got just over 40 guys.
Wow.
We run about 7 crews. Yeah, we do a mixture of residential and commercial framing in southern Utah. After when I was 20, I moved to Colorado, left Island Park, and moved to Breckenridge, chasing the ski bunnies like yourself.
Right.
I moved there for a winter. I had a motorcycle. I sold that in Island Park, bought a 1974 Dodge Power Wagon. My mom helped me buy a little slide-in camper, and I lived in the woods in Island Park for a summer, saved all the money I could to basically buy supplies and fuel to get to Breckenridge. And we rolled in, my buddy Tony and I left Island Park in September and rolled into Breckenridge thinking that we were going to jump right into the job market. And we had a plan to go there and camp until we could find a place to rent. And that quickly fell apart, realizing that we came into a ski town in September when there's no snow, so no one was hiring. So that was probably not a very smart decision. But luckily I picked up a local paper and there's a contractor looking for a carpenter, and was able to get on a framing crew there. And the job I left in Island Park was paying $7 an hour, and I walked on this crew making 20, and I felt like I hit the jackpot.
Right.
But I had everything I owned in that pickup and that slide-in camper, and found a spot in the woods and posted up and lived in that thing for a couple of years, and just put my head down and went to work. Didn't really have much to my name, and other than, work ethic and my tools. So a lot of cold, lonely nights, but I was just had a drive and a focus and had goals and wasn't really distracted by other things.
So what happened to your buddy Tony? Did he get on with the framing crew too, or what happened with him?
Nope, he hired on with the restaurant Rasta Pasta. I don't know if you've ever been to Breckenridge, but this place called Rasta Pasta, he worked there for about 6 months and then ended up moving back to southeastern Idaho. And then actually now I think he lives in Cedar City.
Okay.
Yep. But he bailed on that program and I kind of stuck it out.
And what was that goal? You said you had life plans or a goal.
Well, I just wanted to have a successful life, right? Like build success and own my own home and have a family. That's kind of what my goals were at the time. Always had an idea that I wanted to run my own company. And so when I got hired on with that framing crew, I worked for them for about 9 months, and the general contractor um, saw some potential in me. And when that framing crew finished with his home and they moved on, he asked me to stay on and offered me a job working for him. And I stayed on and helped him finish out that home and went to work. Well, I worked for him for a couple of years. And after 9/11 happened, he decided he wasn't going to build spec homes anymore. So I hired on with another company, Apex Mountain Homes, and ended up working for those guys for about 8 years. And I just looked at it as though I was being taught how to run a company, right? They offered me a position as a lead guy. I didn't have any experience in managing a crew or managing a home from start to finish, but I was open to learning and looked at it like I said, like I was being taught or going to college basically, but being paid at the same time on how to run a business and how to build a home and contract homes and all that stuff. So
Whatever
really
whatever
just-
happened with that Dodge pickup?
I really wish I had it back, as I sold it for like $400, and I bought my first off-road buggy with that money. And now I'm like, man, I really wish I could have it back. I needed a transmission, and at the time I didn't have a shop to put it, tranny in it, and it's kind of funny. I'll have to show you a picture of it sometime, but the thing was beat to hell. I think I got $400 for it, and I bought an XJ, and then it was just that was it for me, man. As soon as I started off-roading, we went and ran Chinaman's Gulch. You're familiar with that in Buena Vista. My first time out ever on a trail, and I was hooked. And from that minute forward, I was just everything I wanted to do was just off-roading.
So you were an
No.
XJ guy. I knew there was a reason I liked you.
It didn't last long. We put a Dana 60 under it, and it wasn't very well built, so it cut everything from the firewall back off of it. And those things are a monobody, so they have like a channel for a frame that kind of rivets to the body, to the floor pan.
Yep.
So I ended up building a 2x4 square or rectangle tube frame with the roll cage, and kind of laid it in there and stitched it all together and made it work. Took it to Moab a couple of times and realized what a piece of crap it really was, and sold it, and then decided to build a full-on buggy, rear steer buggy. And back then was the pirate days, so Rockwell's 49s and full tube chassis is the direction I went.
Wow, from an XJ with 60s to Rockwell's.
Yep, to Rockwell's with rear steer and 49s.
You jumped a whole bunch of stages, by going.
I did, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't very patient.
So those early years of rock crawling, what was it about that grabbed you?
Motors, big tires, and being outside, wheeling with my friends, camping. I mean, everything about it, just the outdoor life. It always appealed to me, being outside, living in a camper in Colorado. And now this is a sport that I get to go do, and I'm outside,
Right.
and the freedom to go explore southern Utah, Colorado, the mountains of Colorado, and just having dirt bikes and snowmobiles and all that stuff, that was just the next level, the next step. Now I've got a car that I can go drive with, my friends can go with me, and it's great. The people, the environment, everything about it, I love it. Absolutely love it.
Cool. And when did so you're working in Breckenridge for the guy? You went to Apex. Apex was in Breckenridge as well?
Yeah, they're based in Frisco.
Frisco, okay.
Yep.
And so you guys were doing, you were learning on very nice houses then, which is what you kind of
high end custom homes. Yeah.
right, and that's kind of what you do now, right? It's or are you guys like framing out housing developments?
Actually, a little bit of both. Yeah, we do a lot of high end custom stuff, and commercial buildings as well. We've got a big development in St. George that we're working on right now. That's 300,000 or 400,000 square feet of framing with a multitude of different buildings. But the majority of our work is still residential home framing. Yep.
Okay, cool. And so when did family life come around for you?
Oh, 2000, early 2000s. In 2008, we had Sawyer, my first son and my first child. And man, that was just parenthood, fatherhood it's the best thing that could have ever happened to me. I absolutely love it. And everything I do revolves around my kids.
Let's start with the wife, your better half. So how did you meet?
Better half. We were just mutual friends in our circle of friends there in Colorado. We kind of ran together. Always kind of had a crush on her, but didn't really have the balls to talk to her, so to speak. And I don't know, finally got up the nerve and asked her out to coffee, and she fell in love with my boyish charm.
Did she say finally?
Finally, yeah, right. Yeah, it's how it usually works, right? She said, "Oh yeah, I always kind of had a crush on you too." I'm like, "Well, why didn't you say something?"
She was like, "Well, because you didn't."
That's right. Yep, exactly.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
So talk about your kids.
Yeah. Sawyer's 16 now, junior in high school, plays football, lacrosse, just really good kid. He's going through a little bit of a struggle right now. He broke his back on his dirt bike about 6 weeks ago. So he was unable to play football this year, and we're trying hard to keep him focused mentally and keep him happy and engaged. As you can imagine, being a 16-year-old and having that taken away from you can be difficult, because he's very athletic. But there's always next year, I guess. So,
yep.
And then Annabelle is the next one in line. She's my daughter. She is 13, and great kid, great student. She's got a little boyfriend now, so we're entering into that phase of life. Yes, which is great. And
Did
then
you
you
actually
have,
just say that's great?
oh, it's good for her.
Okay.
Gives her an outlet and somebody to talk to besides us, right?
Bunch of boys, right? Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, that's gonna happen. You might as well embrace it.
True.
Then you have Coulter, my youngest son. He's 12. You guys all know him. He drives the Laser Nut buggy now, and he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when he was 2. So we've had that struggle in our life, but it's something that we deal with on a daily basis. It'll never get better. It's just something you manage. So we've really focused on education and acceptance of that with him, and trying to, just not have him embrace it, so to speak, but just not have it hold him back.
Right.
You can do whatever you want to do. You can be whatever you want to be. But this is just one more thing you have to deal with, And then our youngest, Reagan, she is 9. Actually just had surgery this morning on her wrist. She fell off the monkey bars last week and broke her wrist and her elbow. So she's had a rough week, but she's the apple of my eye, Daddy's little baby. So yeah, 2 boys, 2 girls, and we're blessed. I love it. It's great.
And you live there in real close to Sand Hollow.
Yep. Dixie Springs.
Dixie Springs with a lot of other wheelers.
Yeah, it's amazing. We have a great community of guys down here and gals that get out. I mean, it's almost on a daily basis. We have a big group text that is going on, and it's almost daily that there's a number of drivers headed out, and everybody's meeting at the park and going and wheeling. So if you don't go out, it's your own fault, because there's always somebody to go out with. So
right.
And how we came to St. George, we bought a house down here in 2019 as a second home. My wife was born and raised in Breckenridge, and with me being in southeastern Idaho, we both grew up in colder climates and we're ready for a change. We had looked into moving to maybe the Cottonwood area of Arizona, kind of by Sedona. But I had been coming out to southern Utah for Trail Hero and just loved it here. Loved the sense of community. It felt like home, even though it wasn't yet. With the LDS community, and although I'm not active in the church, just that sense of community that comes with that. It was really natural for us. So I kept telling her every time I'd come home from Trail Hero, I'd say, hey, we're going to buy a house in southern Utah. And she's like, well, I've never even been there, and blew it off. And the next year I'd come to southern Utah, to Trail Hero, and I'd be like, oh, there's this little subdivision, Dixie Springs. It's right by the park. There's a lake. It's fantastic. We got to buy a house. And so finally she said, well, if you're really that serious about it, let's book a vacation. Let's go out there. So we came to Trail Hero in October. That spring for Easter in April, I had booked a vacation. We rented a home in Dixie Springs, and I lined up like 10 showings for houses. And by the time we left from our vacation, we were under contract on a house.
Is that the one you're in now?
No.
Okay.
So we bought the one actually right next door to us, smaller home. And we started coming, if not every weekend, it was every other weekend. We just absolutely loved it. It was great to get away from Colorado. So we had it as a second home basically for that first 9 months to a year. And then when COVID happened in 2020, Summit County being, very transient community with the ski resorts and everything, people coming and going from all over the world, we were one of the first counties in the state of Colorado to have a positive case. And at that point, the school system was giving us the option to go to remote learning or continue in-person learning. And with Coulter being a diabetic with immune compromised situation, we all didn't really know what to expect, right? Like
right.
The news is telling us this is very deadly. If you're immune compromised, stay indoors, hide away, whatever. And so we were like, well, if we're going to go to remote learning, let's go to Hurricane. We got a swimming pool. It's warm. At that point, it was March in Colorado, so there's still a buttload of snow. So we came down here for remote learning, and after a couple of weeks, I see all these houses going up. I got bored, talked to a builder, and he said, yeah, if you want to frame a house, let's see what you're capable of. So I threw my bags on, brought a couple of my guys down from Colorado, and we threw this house up quick for him. And he said, well, if you can do it that quick, he's like, I'd give you all my work. So at that point, we kind of had to make a decision if we're going to try to move the business down here or part of the business and start spending more time here. And we both agreed that it was something that we wanted to do. We loved the community, the schools, everything about it was just really a good fit for us. So we decided at that point, let's move down, and we can make the business work. We'll make it work. So over the course of the next year, as we were finishing projects in Colorado, I would bring my guys down. So we ended up moving down here with like 35 guys.
Wow.
Brought our entire company down over the course of the next year, and quickly realized that our second home was not nearly big enough for our family and all of our stuff. So we bought the 2 lots next door to us and built a new home with a big shop, and moved into that. I guess it's just been over 2 years, and then sold our initial home that we had bought here.
I know we went to go look at the house that Little Rich was getting ready to buy, and or had bought, and they hadn't moved in yet or something. But we drove down the street, and I go, "Wow, look at that house! That's really cool." And it was like, "No, that's the garage. That's the shop." And I'm like, "What? Who the hell?" "Oh, that's Mike's." I'm like, "What?" That's nice. So when you held your block party, I understood why it was called a block party.
Yeah. We bought the whole end of the block. So, it was a change for us. Where we lived in Colorado, it's pretty rural. We lived outside of town. We were up against a big ranch. We had nothing between us. We had the Blue River right below us, with nothing between us and the mountains. So it was very rural, very quiet. And then to move into a neighborhood like this, it's definitely been a change for us, but it's been great. We love it. Kids can walk to the school bus. That's something that I never had as a kid, and we didn't have in Colorado for them either. So it's been really nice.
And a lot of kids in the neighborhood as well. True.
And a lot of kids in the neighborhood. Yeah, we have a lot of friends in the neighborhood, so it's really cool.
So let's talk some more about your wheeling. So you build a buggy, Rockwells, big tires, rear steer, and how did you go from there? What was your passion?
Well, it was funny. There's always these moments in your life, right, where you have this epiphany. And I remember my friend Corey and I were in Montrose. We were getting ready to run Boulder Canyon. We had heard about this crazy trail, Boulder Canyon in Montrose. We got to find it. We got to go run it. So we go down there. We're all geared up. Back then it was like we loaded everything. We had all our tools. Every spare part we could even muster was loaded in the cars, and trucks and trailers were headed down, right? So we go to Montrose, and we walk into Boulder Canyon, and we're both like, holy crap, this is enormous. Like, I can't even believe people are driving up it, but we can kind of see the lines. So let's try it. So we get in there, and he's in a Toyota. I think he had 40s on it at the time. And we get maybe 200 feet into the trail. And by this time we've already broke 3 ring and pinions in his Toyota. I've run out of fuel, broken a stub shaft. Like, it was just a hot mess. So we spend all freaking day in this trail, packing parts in and out, fixing it. We run out of third members for the Toyota, and I end up stacking probably 30,000 pounds of rock and winching to the point where we got the cars about halfway through the trail. It's now midnight, and I'm like, I'm done. I can't move any more rocks. So we walk back down to camp. So next morning I wake up, we're cooking breakfast, and I hear these buggies just ripping by us, one after another, just vroom, vroom, vroom on the road. And I'm like, holy cow, we got to haul ass. Like, our buggies are in the trail. We don't want to be those guys that are blocking the trail, right? So we drive up there in a pickup. We hike down in the trail, and it's Walker Evans and his crew. And these guys, it was amazing to watch. Those guys came in their buggies. No one was spotting each other. They had their little headsets on. They were talking, and they walked through the gatekeeper of that trail like it wasn't even there. And it blew my mind. I couldn't freaking believe it. So we hiked up. We, again, didn't want to block the trail. We end up getting our cars out. And when we got back to camp, I told Corey, I said, I have to sell my car. I said, I want that. Like, that was the coolest thing I had ever seen in my life. Like, it blew me away. And now I think back, to where we're at now when we go and we wheel, and we're very much on that same page where we don't spot anybody. We're going and running the hardest trails we can find, but at that moment in my life, I was like, that's where I want to be, so how do I get to that point? So back then was maybe 2009, 2010, sold the Rockwell buggy. If you remember, Tim Cameron had the Fat Girl bouncer.
Yep. Yes.
And there's a video of him doing this wheelie. And I was like, ooh, that's the coolest shit ever, right? So I started looking for a bouncer. So I bought a Jimmy Smith's bouncer, quickly realized that it's not a rock crawler, it's a bouncer. But I liked the lines of the chassis, so I turned it into a crawler. So I re-geared the whole thing, built rear steer for it, put a 14-bolt rear steer underneath it, and turned it into a crawler. Well, then along comes Kevin Carroll in a red dot one day. Oh, we're out in Moab, and I just was like, I've got to have it, and so I started saving money, and was able to buy a red dot, and that car changed my life. It was when you buy a car of that caliber, it actually, as a driver, puts a lot of pressure on you because now you no longer have the excuse, well, my car didn't make it.
Right.
It was the buggy's problem. It's me as a driver that I suck. So buying a car like that, it was like, all right, I need to start stepping my game up. And, I'm seeing Kevin going out here running all these trails and McKinley and Kyleman and all of these guys that I look to up in the sport. Now I've got the same equipment they do. It's on me to elevate my game to be able to do that. Just kept pushing the envelope. And then I got into We Rock. If you remember, that was 2020. I think you guys did nationals in Cedar.
Yep.
And
because
I showed up with the red
because
dot.
of COVID, they'd shut down farming.
Right.
All in New Mexico.
Yep.
Okay. So.
Yep. So I showed up to the nationals event, just went up there with the car, was like, oh, well, I might as well try it. Why not? I didn't even have a spotter, and Val actually stepped in and spotted for me. And we did all right. I actually placed at podium. I think I got second or something. I was like, man, this is kind of cool. I might do it again. So I believe after that we did a couple of super crawl events that summer before the next season of We Rock had started, and did pretty good in those and podiumed in them. And the thing about those style of events, it helped me elevate my driving very rapidly, because if you want to win, you're forced to put yourself and your vehicle in situations where you might otherwise take a bypass.
Right.
If you were out on a trail, big drops, big climbs, off camber stuff. And Supercrawl was the same way. Rich was definitely wanted to push the envelope with the, capability of the cars and the drivers. So that forced me to do bigger obstacles than I probably was very comfortable with, but I wanted to win. So we, challenge accepted, I guess. And then once you do that stuff in competition, you go out on your trail wheel and you're like, oh, hey, maybe this drop isn't as bad as I thought it was, and I bypassed it 10 times. I'm going to start pushing myself to do this stuff when I'm not in competition.
Right.
So,
and you guys out there in that area, you guys don't have like a club or anything like that, but you guys except your group text. You guys really do push the envelope down there. You're always looking for something new and something that's, that may not be able to be conquered.
Right.
And that helps that helps push the sport along.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, it's been great coming down here, and I got that opportunity that same year to run as a participant in the LCQ for Trailbreaker, which, having come to the Trail Hero events and volunteering as a as a guide. Recovery was the very first event I volunteered for recovery, and then every year after that I had volunteered as a guide, and had always been a big fan of the event and watching these drivers that I looked up to, you know, Heilman and Steve Nance and Jeff McKinley, and these guys that are, you know, Cody Wagner, these guys that are in the Trailbreaker event, and watching them do these events, and it's just blowing my mind, you know. And Rich approached me in 2019 and asked me if I was interested in doing an LCQ. I believe it was the first year he actually did an LCQ event. And I said, yeah, I'd love the opportunity. So, I didn't sleep for 2 days before that. I was so scared. I was super nervous, like, because we went out and walked it, and it was enormous. I'm like, oh, what did I get myself into? You start questioning my abilities, you know, but went out, sucked it up, went out and did it, and felt like I held my own, you know, and with a lot of encouragement from the other drivers that I had looked up to, and really helped me with my confidence levels, you know. So that's been great. I love it.
And this year, you jumped in, and I think this is the first year you guys really went for it. Is that correct?
It is, yeah. So I had bought one of Jesse Haynes's competition moon buggies, and did a couple of events in that car, super crawl, a few events, and a couple of standalone events in We Rock with that car. But this year was really the year that we were going to put our heads down and try to go for the national title in Unlimited. And we got pretty darn close. I think we missed it by one cone for the national title. So we did pretty well. We chased it all over the country, East Coast, West Coast. I mean, shoot, we were all the way up in Pennsylvania and West Virginia and all over the East this summer, Tennessee, and then clear over to Goldendale. So we really, really went for it this year and had a whole lot of fun doing it. So.
And you brought Coulter along as well, didn't you?
Yep. Yeah, this year. So after the Cedar event, Cody Wagner with Laser Nut called me and, said that he really wasn't feeling it and wanted to do something to give back to the sport, and was really liked where we were headed as a family and with our kids, and wanted to be a part of what we were doing. And his idea was to basically sponsor our team with Moonshine, his personal moon buggy, and have Coulter drive it and have Sawyer spotting in the sportsman's class to get him some seat time, because he is only 12.
Right.
Get him some experience and some seat time. And so, how do you say no to that opportunity? Cody and I are friends, and that was my biggest concern. First and foremost was, look, our friendship comes first. I don't want there to ever be any ill feelings between us regarding this sponsorship and or the vehicle or whatever. So if there's ever any issue, let's be open and talk about it, because I don't want to compromise our friendship.
Right.
But yeah, it's been a great partnership. He's super cool dude, and to offer that kind of thing for my kids was just, it blew my mind. Honestly, I kind of got a little emotional when he was telling me about it. I was like, I don't even know what to say. Like, that's the coolest thing anybody's ever done,
Right.
And Coulter was in tears. We did this. Cody had the idea to do a big unveiling at Laser Nut Racing in California. And so we booked a trip on Mother's Day and went out. Coulter knew nothing about it. We were just going to stop and say hi to Cody. And when we went into the shop, they had the car all cleaned up with some green balloons, and Coulter's favorite color is green. So they did this big presentation for him, and it was very cool. Very, very humbling to have somebody to do that for us. So very cool.
Our community is awesome.
It is. Yep. So I believe that we're going to he's going to extend that into next year. And I'm building a new single seat moon buggy for myself to drive, and then Sawyer's going to take over the car that I was driving this year and compete in Unlimited as well. So it's really become a family deal for us, and for me to be able to do it with my boys and travel and compete. And my wife kind of handles all of our media with the girls, and all our swag and team apparel and all that kind of stuff. And it's really become a family thing, and it's awesome. So
what was it like going back east? Did you have time to take the boys to any of the national parks and that kind of stuff, or was it pretty much business of the rock crawling?
Yeah, it was pretty action packed between the traveling. We went to Good Evening Ranch in West Virginia for that first event. And then from there, we went up to Pennsylvania for the X Rock the next weekend. And so, it took us a day and a half to get there or so. And we went to Roush, wheeled there for a day, and then went over to Famous Redding to prepare for the X Rock event. And Sawyer ended up driving Moonshine in that event and did well. He placed podiumed in that event. And then after the X Rock, we drove. That would be Father's Day weekend, so we drove down and went to Arlington, which was very cool to take them to. We got to see the changing of the guard. What a humbling experience. I mean, geez, I think every citizen should have to go through that place, because it's very humbling, the sacrifice that those people have made for our freedoms.
Absolutely.
So it's very, very cool to share that with my boys on Father's Day. Then we drove down to Charlotte to leave our vehicles and camper and trailer at Greg Higgs's place there in Charlotte, and we flew home for a few weeks. And then we flew back to attend the Dayton, Tennessee We Rock event, and then we drove home from there. So it was pretty action-packed, lots of driving, lots of traveling. So we didn't really get to see too many state parks or national parks, if you will, but boy, just traveling through the country was amazing. And we loved going back there and wheeling with everybody. We met a ton of, everybody that we got to hang out with, the East Coast crowd, if you will. They're super nice, very welcoming, very helpful. We needed parts. Even at an event, if you were broken, they helped us on our cars. It was very cool.
Excellent.
Yep.
And
then
go ahead.
They put together a white water rafting trip before the Tennessee event on Saturday morning, which was super awesome. Yeah. So we went and did that, and that was a lot of fun. Hopefully we get to do it again next summer.
Excellent. So you're going to go for it again next year with 3 buggies.
I think so. Yeah. I think Coulter's going to do the Sportsman's A again. Just to continue to build on his skill set, getting him more and more comfortable in the car. And then, we'll have 2 cars in the Unlimited class next year.
Nice. A little father-son rivalry.
Oh, yeah. We got to figure that whole thing out, too. See how many, if we're going to share some secrets or not. I'd love to spot for him, but, I think I got a couple more years of driving in me.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you got Trail Hero coming up again this year. Are you competing at the Trailbreaker event?
I am, yeah. So next week, the LCQ on Tuesday, and if we're fortunate enough to make it through that, the main event is on Thursday, and then the We Rock is doing another rock crawl event on Friday, and the boys are signed up for that. Sawyer's signed up in Unlimited, and Coulter will be in the Sportsman's class. And I think we have Moonshine back at Laser Nut Racing right now, getting prepped for SEMA. Cody's going to put that buggy in his booth at SEMA this year, and the boys are going to go down and sign autographs and do that thing. So it'll be a good experience for them.
That's awesome.
So that car won't be here for Trail Hero, but we just finished building a couple of new trail cars for the boys. So Poulter will drive his new trail car in the We Rock event on Friday.
Excellent. And those are like two identical cars, are they not?
Yeah. So we use the Holtz Engineering chassis, Richard Holtzy design out of Grand Junction, and built two identical portal cars. Presents challenges doing two at a time, but it's also somewhat easier because, once you figure out the bugs on one, you just put the other one together. So, but it's really cool to be blessed to be able to do that for them, and get to share this sport with them.
It's all about the family.
That's right. Yep, for sure.
And it's great that you guys all have the passion for doing this, so that it is a family affair. And that's awesome.
Yep. Yeah, we just got those cars done, got them back from wiring last week. So we did shakedown on them last weekend, and I think they're good to go for this week, hopefully. So.
Excellent.
Yep.
Well, Michael, I want to say thank you so much for sharing your life with us. I mean, it was very, very nice that you opened up like you did, and shared how you became who you are, and now I understand. I understand you much better, and I appreciate that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, it's
always a pleasure to chat with you.
So you go out and have a great day framing houses and making sure your crews are working, and give all those kids a hug for me, and hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right, Michael, thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Well, that's another episode of Conversations with Big Rich. I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you could do us a favor and leave us a review on any podcast service that you happen to be listening on, or send us an email or a text message or a Facebook message, and let me know any ideas that you have, or if there's anybody that you have that you think would be a great guest, please forward the contact information to me so that we can try to get them on. And always remember, live life to the fullest. Enjoying life is a must. Follow your dreams and live life with all the gusto you can. Thank you.